Construction is responsible for 12% of global carbon emissions. Climate change is still getting worse, and over the next few decades, historic weather events will continue to set records for the destruction they cause and the toll they take. Lowering carbon emissions caused by construction projects is a huge opportunity to make a massive impact on the future. Now wait, at this point you might be thinking, hey, I'm not the CEO, I'm just a simple contractor or scheduler. Even if I wanted to help, what could I do? Would it even make a difference? Where would I start? This video is about exactly that, how to make a positive change, and what's in it for you and your company if you do. What do we even mean when we say carbon in construction? After all, it's not just carbon dioxide that causes a global heating effect in the atmosphere. It's a big mess of more harmful greenhouse gases like methane, nitrous oxide, and weird stuff like sulfur hexafluoride. Now, because these other gases are much worse for the environment and the atmosphere and have a bigger impact and effect, they are weighted more heavily. So to keep things simple, everything is given a CO2 equivalent level rating. So, for example, methane is 25 times more impactful on the atmosphere than carbon dioxide. So the same volume of methane would be counted as 25 units of CO2. Sulfur hexafluoride, by the way, is apparently 22,000 times worse than carbon dioxide. So whatever that is, yikes. You can break down the emissions on a construction project into two parts: embodied carbon and operational carbon. Operational carbon is how much emissions are created from the asset or building and its use once it's been constructed. Embodied carbon is all of the emissions from the construction and pre-construction activities. The carbon from the on-site construction itself actually dwarfs in comparison to the pre-construction emissions. Think about it. How much carbon was used in the creation of all the raw materials you're using on your project? The asphalt, the concrete, the wires, the steel, the demolition or clearing of the job site in preparation for construction, not to mention the carbon footprint caused by transporting all of the materials, equipment, and people to and from the job site. So back to the initial question, what can a single contractor or scheduler or PM do? Ask a steel refinery to produce less emissions when smelting in a blast furnace? No, of course not. However, some refineries now use a greener process to make it so they do actually produce less carbon emissions than before. Simply inquiring about this before selecting a steel provider could have a big impact on your project's embodied carbon. Of course, there's no miracle solution to this carbon construction problem, but is there a solution at all that's realistic at least? Some people think so.
So Zero Construct is a global network of people that just care about reducing carbon in construction to hopefully zero.
This is Matthew Jackson, a member of the nonprofit organization working towards the goal of getting that 12% of Earth's carbon emission from construction down to zero. Zero Construct is aware that their goal is ambitious, but their method to getting to that goal is through the Zero Carbon Playbook.
We are building our playbook, which is like an online knowledge base, like a wiki. And as members, you can consume it or you can give knowledge to it.
Over 100 professionals from around the world have added their tips, advice, and knowledge for people to use to affect positive carbon change in the industry. The articles are very short and concise, so anyone, regardless of education or background, can get on the same page. It mostly boils down to communication. How to get people in your organization on board, or at least thinking about embodied carbon. The more people you can get to buy into making changes on the pre-construction, planning, and design phase of the project, the more it will make a difference. Some practical examples of things you can do are: get your organization to do a carbon audit. Use software like Nodes and Links AI-assisted schedule tool to analyze your carbon on projects. Make embodied carbon a KPI internally. Once your company starts acting on it as a metric, it can help to make it an industry-wide standard. With some of the how out of the way, let's address the even more important why lowering carbon in construction is important. The best way to change people's minds is not to badger or shame them into doing so. It's properly incentivizing the desired result we all want. And luckily, there are a lot of incentives. But just to name a few, auditing where you get your supplies or analyzing your procedures will lead to cost cutting and cheaper solutions you wouldn't have found otherwise. New York and Toronto are some of the first North American cities to be taxing embodied carbon on construction projects. Getting ahead of the curve on this can save your company a lot in the future. More cities will likely follow. By making company-wide mandates or carbon goals for individual projects, you can really improve the marketability of those projects to conscious consumers or investors looking to put their money where it matters. Good for PR, improve your sustainability, and more. Running through all of this is the theme of leadership. It takes leadership to get people to change their minds and habits. It's going to take leadership to push back on the effects of climate change. But leadership doesn't have to come from the top down. Anyone can be a leader.
It's not just about working with leaders and CEOs. Every person that makes a decision about construction can make a small change.
In the near future, more and more pressure is going to be coming down on the construction industry to lessen its impact on climate change. We can all be leaders, big and small, in deciding to make a change inside our companies. We've linked all the resources in the description below. We need to at least support and encourage organizations like Zero Construct for their efforts if we can't act or enact change ourselves. Take that small step and sign up as a member today for free. As Matthew says,
it's about getting everybody to learn that they can go and ask these really good questions and make very good decisions that are actually very low-hanging fruit and can make a huge change. So massive empowerment for people.